Truth Nation Financial Literacy Month is powered by U.S. Bank, the power of us. And I am sitting here with Nina Johnson, Senior Vice President of Wisconsin Branch Banking Market Leader. How you doing today, Nina?
I'm doing great. Can't complain.
We are on a roll this month, all right? We're on a roll, and I'm trying to get on the roll, trying to get to that billionaire status. Trying to get to that billionaire status. So with that being said, now, Nina, people typically get a large lump sum of money around tax season. All right, that's what typically happens. Some people may even have claimed other family members, children, all right, or their siblings to get an even bigger child tax credit. We all know it's tempting to spend that money right away, but what are things people should ask themselves before doing so?
They need to ask if it's a want or a need.
Mm.
Basic questions.
Yeah.
Do you want this or do you really need it? And start from there. Also, I mean, what you just described was, I would say, the state of the individual who is in need of financial education. Like,
Gotcha.
if you're claiming people and you know you shouldn't be claiming them, come on. So
It's true. It happens, though.
not in your baby's name.
Yeah.
No, none of that. But it is an opportunity
Right.
to stop and say, wait a minute, is this a want or a need? And when you identify the difference between your want and need, then you start to plan and hopefully plan well. And that's where your banker can help you with that. You don't have to do it in a silo. You don't have to kind of figure it out on your own. Yes, YouTube is great, but certain things you want to have, human interaction
Right.
on, and your banker is really the stop for you. And depending on the money you have, it really does dictate how the banker is going to support your goal. But you have to have a goal. We talked about that on the last segment.
Right.
Know what your goal is before you kind of identify what your want and need is. You don't really know what you want until you kind of define it, put some bones on it, and so from that perspective, when we think about like with the IRS, they told us, like as of late March, at the end of last month,
Okay.
that the refunds on average will be approximately $3,284.
Interesting.
$3,284 is a nice launching pad for a certificate of deposit, a money market fund. Those are easy to get in your local branches. Or if you want to even look at something a little bit more, I would say, long term, you could talk to a wealth advisor as well.
Well, let me ask you this, Nina. Let's expound on those ideas for a brief moment. When you're talking about the idea of a certificate of documents, you said, or
Certificate
of
of deposit.
What is that?
So a CD is actually a savings vehicle, and right now rates are historically higher than they've been in the last, I would say, decade or so.
What's the percentage?
So you could range from like up to 4% in some cases.
Okay.
It's really nice. And so when you think about certificates of deposits, that is money that you don't need to touch right now. But you may need to touch it, 6 months, a year from now, 18 months from now. When you put that money aside, it accumulates interest at that rate. And so you've got a nice yield or a nice nest egg as it pertains to the money that's grown on top of the money that you've saved. It's funny because one of the organizations that I helped to start in Wisconsin is called Secure Futures. It used to be called Make a Difference Wisconsin. And we went into high schools to teach 11th and 12th graders the importance of financial education.
Right.
And those kids got it right away. In fact, we were at Rufus King, and I always talk about this with the CEO. We kind of chuckle about this moment because she's like, I never understood what this kid was doing, but we were auditing a class, which means that we were just watching the instructor, which was a either Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 leader, teaching a class of high schoolers financial education, and she was on the topic of compound interest, which Warren Buffett calls the eighth wonder of the world, by the way. And so she's teaching compound interest to these students, and this young man in the back of the room at Rufus King gets up in the middle of the class and comes over by me and kneels down, and he's whispering in my ear. He's saying, Miss Nina, I have some money. I got a job, and I need to find out how I can open up an account today. I'm like, she hasn't even finished teaching the class. The CEO of Secure Futures is looking over at me like, what is this kid talking? Is that her nephew? What is he talking to her about? And it was just an aha moment, because it was like, if the kids get it, the parents can get this too.
Truth.
Another story. I've served on a little over 40 nonprofit boards in my career. And as I was serving on the advisory board of Secure Futures, I was also serving on the advisory board of the Hmong American Peace Academy, commonly known as HAPA. And if you don't know anything about the Hmong American Peace Academy, we have 3 campuses here in Wisconsin, unlike any other state. So Chris Herjung is the leader of that organization. And we were in a meeting, and it was a Secure Futures meeting being hosted at HAPA. And they brought in a few students who were of Hmong descent to talk about their experience in learning financial education. And one of the young men, which I'll never forget this, one of the young men came in and started to talk about how he translated the curriculum that he learned in high school to help his parents save their home, preventing them from going into foreclosure. During the Great Recession, you talk about a moment where all things came together for me personally, because it's like, okay, not only do the kids understand financial education, but now here's a young man who's now translated it so his parents understand, and it's applicable
Powerful.
right now in this moment to a point where he just helped his family save his house. So financial education is a full circle moment. And I would say, for those who are thinking about how they are to use their money, save their money, invest their money, whatever they're trying to do, if they're trying to, move up scale as it pertains to how they save a dollar, take the time to talk to the banker near you. U.S. Bank branches throughout the state. We have people that are ready to have those conversations, but not only the branch employees have that background, but we have a partnership with Operation Hope, which is a national organization, and we have those representatives in many of our branches, especially in southeastern Wisconsin, to talk about financial education. That's even more of a holistic conversation for those who really need some additional support.
So if I have $20,000,
yes,
I should go ahead and put it in a CD.
You could.
Mm-hmm.
There's
what are some
options.
other sources out there that I could, receive that compound interest?
Money market funds, they're a little bit more flexible than a CD. You can draw from a money market fund. Like if you have $20,000 and, you really haven't done the 50, 30, 20 on that, that $20,000.
Oh, that 20,000.
Right. You just put all your money into 100% savings, or, you plan to do that. And then all of a sudden somebody reminds you, hey, what about that, payment that you got to make?
Right.
That's going to take, 30% of your 20,000. If that is one of those situations, then a money market fund may be aligned for you just because you have the access to draw a certain number of funds out of that $20,000 once you set up the relationship. But there's so many investment vehicles available, and your banker is the best one to kind of get you started. But we talked about your tax refund. There's also lump sums of money. People get bonuses if you're on a commission structure. That's also another way that you can kind of try to take extra money that you weren't expecting a year ago and putting it into some kind of vehicle that results in a positive outcome for you due to interest.
That's interesting, Nina, because as we do talk about, investments and stocks, I have a question, all right? So how is the economic uncertainty or worries about a recession impacting consumer spending right now? Like, especially with the tariffs the government has just imposed, how will that affect the future of American consumer spending? Because I'm already buckling down on every penny I spend. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, the one thing that I always tell people is to go to the experts. And so when you think about the economic conditions that we're in right now, it's just like, and I'm not saying that we are in the midst of a recession or anything like that, but there's tools that we can use to make sure that our finances are protected in no matter what environment we're in, because we've done the prelim work, we've done the preparing, like we talked about in the last segment.
Financial planning.
And so nothing is surprising us because we've got for example, emergency funds for 6 months that we've set aside. So going back to that $20,000 that you talked about, that windfall that you have coming, if that alludes to 6 months of emergency funds, now you've got 6 months of emergency funds or $20,000 sitting in a CD or money market fund in case there is something that happens, like, economically, you've got that money to rely on. And those are the types of techniques that your banker will help you with as you're trying to build wealth within your future.
Now, let me ask you this, Nina. I hate to go down this rabbit hole, but me being Ben Jammin, I have to ask this question, Nina. Because some people are in fear of the idea that, putting all your monies into a bank or any kind of type of account like that. What would happen if we did get into some kind of recession, America shuts down, and the banks close up on us? That's one thing that people think about.
So, when we look at the banking industry overall and we kind of look at the history of banking in its entirety, the one thing that we should be comforted with and assured of is that, there's FDIC insurance on your money.
There you go.
And it increased during the Great Recession. It used to be a maximum of $100,000. It's now $250,000 per account.
Right.
So from that perspective, you literally have protection up to of $250,000. So if something went awry, you at least know that your money is protected by that insurance.
That's beautiful. Thank you for all my conspiracy theories. All right. Had to ask the question. All right. It sounds like everybody has the power to live the American dream.
It depends on what your dream is, yes. If you identify the dream first.
Right. Identify the dream first.
Know what your dream is. And once you have that solidified, then go after it.
That's beautiful, Nina. You're so inspiring.
Thank you.
Seriously, man. Even off air, I would definitely still love to have a conversation with you about, finances and just put myself in a better financial predicament.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, Truth Nation. All right, this is Financial Literacy Month, powered by U.S. Bank, the power of us, and I am speaking with Nina Johnson, the Senior Vice President of Wisconsin Branch Banking Market Leaders. All right. With that being said, this will conclude this interview, but we got more for y'all, Truth Nation. So make sure that y'all tap in and stay locked in because we're going to go further down this rabbit hole of financial literacy.